So I kind of want to show you guys kind of behind the scenes on WriterAccess here, because some of you may not know like what WriterAccess is or how it works, but this is how I get content written. And so it's great to talk about planning, but then what do we do after you have this plan? So I'm not gonna, it would take me a while to go through it completely. You can schedule a demo if you're interested, but basically you can find talent on WriterAccess. You can find freelance writers that specialize in whatever your area is. So for us, because we're writing about content marketing, I looked for writers that have specialty in that. So you can kind of like search the writers. Is this okay to go through this, Byron?
Yeah, why
It's
not?
an important part of our process. I'm not really trying to sell you guys on this, but it's an important part of our process. So we find the writers. Cool. I read each one of them has a profile here. So I read their profile to see, okay, what's their experience? Sure, this is a great person. So I've already created my teams because we've been doing this for a little while. So at WriterAccess, you can add them to a love list. So you have a list of people that you love that either have written content or they look great to write some content. Then you can organize them into teams. So I have a blog team. These are the writers that I work with on a regular basis. So the ones that are checked off. These are the writers that I work with on a regular basis. So I, at this point, know them well enough to kind of know what their style is and who would be good for what. That's something when you're working with new freelancers. It's really hard when you're choosing freelancers to know what their writing's going to look like for you. So yes, you should look at their portfolio to make sure that they can write. This is also coming from, I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a background as a freelancer. So prior to this position, I was freelancing almost 10 years. So you can tell from a portfolio what their quality is, what their writing style is, but it's hard to know what that looks like for you until they write a piece for you. So that's why don't necessarily discount someone if it's not perfect the first time. If they're really good at what they do, it might be perfect the first time, but get a feel for how they write and give them lots of feedback in the beginning so that you have, you can have this working relationship. So how we kind of manage our writing here is I place an order with the writer. So basically whoever the writer is, I pick them on this thing. And again, if you want more info on this, you can get someone from our team to go through a demo with you, but I'm kind of just showing you what our process is. So I place the order with them. I give them the order instructions. This is where I copy and paste that brief. If you're working with a freelancer or if you're working with an in-house team, you just email them the brief. If you're working with a freelancer, just like a individual freelancer, you can just email them the brief. For us, we copy and paste it because they work through the software. So once I get the content back from them, so once it's complete, which I actually think, yeah, I already.
Sarah, go back there for 1 sec and
Yep.
then just show them the creative brief templates, because those are also kind of cool.
Sure.
And then we have a couple other templates in there as well that are just worth it. There's a creative brief. There's a
Yeah,
custom
so
journey map.
I actually created templates specifically since I am ordering blogs over and over again. So what it kind of looks like, you decide, do you want to pay per word? Do you want to pay per order? We mostly pay per word because the blogs vary. But if you're doing something like social media, you might pay per order. So you can decide the word count, put that in there. When do you want them to deliver it? So for me, most of these I get within 7 days. If it's something tighter, sure, but now we're at a point where I'm ordering all this content ahead of time. So if I can give them 7 days, it usually they can fit it into the rest of their workload. So when you order content through WriterAccess, you can approve an extension ahead of time. So if they need an extra 24 hours, you can say, yeah, I'll auto approve that, so that when they ask for it, they just get it. You can also order things like tweets or Facebook posts. So if you want the writer to write a Facebook post that's promoting this blog post or piece of content, you can order all of that. You can even have them write a meta title and meta description. For us, I do that myself because part of my job is making sure everything is optimized. But if you don't want to do that, or you don't have someone specifically to manage content, this is great. They can give you the title, the description. We have plenty of writers that are specialists in SEO writing, so they understand kind of what that entails. You can even order images through us, which is great. That's part of what I do is find images for the blog post. But again, I'm 100% dedicated to our content. A lot of smaller teams don't have a person that is. Also, just to mention, shameless plug, if you're like, I don't even have time to do this, we do have managed services where we have a customer success person that will get to know you and your brand and can do all of this for you. So you just say, here are the 10 topics, and then they kind of do all of this for you, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so then you add in the order instructions. So here we have kind of a creative brief setup in the platform. So you can tell them, you know, here's a description of our business. Here's kind of who our customers are. So they're in between the ages 25 to 40. They're industry specialists, men, women, teens, whatever your target audience is. You can describe the audience. You can offer an objective for the piece of content. So for us, the objective changes based on the piece of content, which is what I wrote there, and our writers know that. You can talk about what's the tone. So we have that bigger style guide that we attach to these briefs, but if you don't have a big style guide, you just say, we really want our tone to be, you know, informal, personal. You can just kind of write that there. Style elements you can choose, narrative voices if you want them to stick to second or third person. For our posts, we do allow first person because a lot of the times they're talking about their actual experiences as freelancers. Things to avoid, so competitors, religion, politics. You might talk about certain products you want them to avoid, or legal restrictions as well. Sourcing requirements will be different for everyone. We ask that they use at least 2 authoritative sources that they link to externally, and that they link to at least 2 sources internally. That's something I often add additional sources because I'm kind of optimizing it. But if you're depending entirely on the freelancer to create a completed finished product and you're not having someone optimize it afterwards, you can put those requirements in there and they'll return something that kind of fits that. And then this is where you put the topic title, the instructions for the order. Here's where you add the keywords. Byron talked about this before. So required keywords, I just copy and paste them in there. And then from the writer's side, if they do not include those required keywords, it won't let them submit the piece. So if they forget to include a keyword, it'll say, hey, you didn't submit the keywords, and they have to go back and put them in there. Optional keywords, they don't have to put in before submitting. So this would be just anything that's nice to have and not necessarily must have. Yeah, so that is what our form thing looks, our interactive form thing looks like at WriterAccess. So if you use WriterAccess, it's really easy to give the writer all the information, probably too much information, all the information they could ever need to write this one blog post. So when they take the order, they can see all of that, they review that, they use that to write the piece. So in terms of what do we do after we have this whole workflow, right? So you can have the pieces that are in progress. You can see what people are writing right now, which I'll show. We've got 3 in progress. What's pending approval. So these are the ones that have been written and submitted. I'm a little slow on approving these, so I'm gonna have to go through and read these and approve them. I'll just show you what that looks like in case you're interested. So they've written this piece that I've given them. This is Cindy. She's one of my legal writers, legal experts. So it shows me how many times she has used our required keywords. So she's used each of them twice. How many times she's used the optional keywords. In this case, some of them once, some of them 0 times. What I tell our writers is optional if it makes sense. You can use it naturally in the content. So she's done that there. Gives you a language analysis in case you're aiming for a certain flesh scale score to see how easy it is to read. this highlights all the keywords in there so I can see where they were used. So I can read this, I can go through this. They're able to create H2, H3 headings in the WriterAccess submitting thing. I don't know what you call it. When they submit the content, they're able to create the heading. So that's great. It's already optimized. You just copy and paste that and stick it into WordPress. Actually, you don't have to copy and paste it because you can export it directly into WordPress through WriterAccess. So we read this, we think, oh, wow, this is great. I'm not going to actually approve it because I haven't read it yet, but you can approve the content. You say it met my expectations, it exceeded, it did not meet my expectations. You can also ask for revisions, where you can actually like highlight things and say, I think that you should mention, see this little thing pops up, I think that you should mention this other thing. Basically, you tell them what revisions you want here, and when they get it back, they see those revisions, they have time to make those revisions, and then you get, you know, the content that you want back. Most of the writers I use, they know what I want at this point, and I don't have to ask for revisions, which is the sweet spot that you get to with your freelancers. So I always leave them a little note. Thanks for, you know, the hard work, great piece, whatever. Then you approve the content. So once you have approved it, you have this whole list of beautiful completed content that you can see here. We have a lot of it. We publish so much. So once the piece is approved, this is kind of what it looks like. And here we have a piece that is going to be going up this week from a writer, Jennifer G. She writes a lot of content for us. She's great. If you need a content marketing writer, she always puts GIFs in there, which I love. But so for how we do this, usually you could just export this to WordPress, put it in, publish it, you're good to go. But if you guys know anything about me from the, 30 minutes I've been talking, I like to have a lot of control over my content. So I don't just put it into WordPress because I'm going to run it through another tool to make sure it's optimized.